All right, all right, all right. We are live on Christmas Eve. Now, query: what kind of dummy schedules a live event for 5 o'clock on the day before Christmas Eve? But that would be me. And the whole reason why I did is because I think that after you hear this, and if you're not watching this live, which I hope that you are, but if you're not and you're doing the replay, I think you're going to understand how important this information is as you come into the end of the year, and how much I think this is going to positively impact your year-end planning and going into the beginning of the year fresh, stoked, enthused, ready to roll with a clear understanding of who you are, what you want to be, why you're doing what you do, and how to best lead your family. So without further ado, let me introduce everyone in the OZ Nation to Scott Berry. So I originally met Scott on Ascent. So we've got our OZ Pros Mastermind. That's a weekly call that meets every Tuesday from 10 to 11:30 Eastern time. So if you want to join and come in and talk OZs or get plugged into stuff like this is exactly what we do in there. And I don't know. I think Scott might tell the story better than I do relative to kind of how the conversation started. But I mentioned that I was working on a family constitution and that I was revising my estate plan to be more kind of meritocracy based, and to be so that it doesn't kind of follow the standard estate plan where kids get money when they're 18, 25, and then 30, and then it completely disperses and creates a whole host of issues, including the possibility of setting up creditor claims and that kind of thing. And so Scott was like, hey, would you mind sharing your family constitution? I sent it to him, didn't think much about it after that. And then lo and behold, he says, hey man, he said, I want to talk with you about something. And he actually scheduled, I was speaking at an event in Puerto Rico that I don't necessarily know that he had a whole lot of interest in, but he literally booked a plane ticket, flew from California to Puerto Rico, which is not an easy trip at all. And then, we had a little bit of chance to talk. Yeah, exactly. We love the folks, and I'm also going to remind everybody that if you are watching, right, and you've got the ability to be able to jump into the chat, please heckle away, whether it's myself and my crazy haircut that I just got today, or Scott and anything that he's talking about. We'd love to get your comments. We'd love to get your questions. I'll pull you on stage. Not sure who the cat boy is, but hey, yeah, that's a heck of a trip from California on out here. And I think the cat boy was like, hey, man, that's rough. Thank you for making that trip. But he did. We ended up going on a snorkeling trip, and the snorkeling trip was okay. But when we ultimately got on the way back, where I remember standing underneath this, like in the boat, and my head was like literally almost bouncing and hitting the roof. And he's like, hey man, he's like, I took what you were talking about. I took what we were kind of generally talking about, and I created this one-page life on one-page thing. And I was like, really? I was like, well, dude, that's fascinating. I was like, I'd love to see it sometime. And he was like, stand by. And he ran to his backpack, and he comes back literally with one life on one page, which was really cool. And as he kind of started walking me through it, and I was like so impressed by it, I went up to the front of the boat, and I was like, Christy, I was like, when we get back on the bus to drive back to San Juan, you got to see this one pager that Scott did. And so we sat down together. She was like, all right, I got to do that. I've been telling myself that I need to put something like this together. I love your format. I love kind of how you're talking about this. Would you mind sharing that with me? And so he did. And when he did, it blew my mind with the extent of the stuff that he had as background, the process, the how-to, the thinking, everything else around it. So what we wanted to do is to specifically set this time so that he could walk you through the same thing that he did with me on a bus in the dark on the way back from somewhere out east in Puerto Rico. I don't even remember what the name of the town was that we embarked upon our snorkeling trip back to San Juan. That literally, I think, is going to, ultimately change my life and my family's lives. And so I wanted to tee it up so that he could change yours too and inspire you to do the same with your family. So, Scott, take it away, man.
All right. Well, good memory. You were actually given I think, a bonus ascent. I can't remember the attorney's name, but he was in Southern California. But that was when you were talking about your Constitution, and I just happened to listen to it, and that's how I got started talking to you.
I think that was John Heyer. And so, as part of this, it's so important to me that I've forced my kids to watch, right? So I put that in. That's one of my things, right? Is that I'm creating job expectations. This is one of them, and that they had to comment. So, Mowbray, I'm looking for a little bit more than that. In that, I appreciate the emojis. You gotta get deep on me here, man. So this is actually going to be I want to show my one pager. This is one of the things that I really want to do too, is to involve my kids in more stuff like this. So anyhow, thank you again, Scott. I will try not to interrupt all the time.
It's your show. All right, well, let's get into it. My name's Scott Berry. Nice to meet all of you. I try to spend the majority of my waking hours combining my burning passions with my God-given talents to fulfill my major missions in life. Like, this is kind of how I've been running my life up to this point. After I left college with an engineering degree, I've been really focused on two things, which is developing advanced aircraft and this beautiful family of 7 kids, all from the same wife. I get asked that all the time, but my wife is amazing. And so this is where I've been spending my time. And so as a father, one of my core responsibilities is to lead and inspire my kids to be the best versions of themselves, right? But to do that well, I first need to be the one doing a pretty good job of being my best self. And this is so well explained when you jump on an airliner, right? And they go through the emergency briefing. They say, in case of emergency, right, put your mask on first before you try to help anybody else. Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about there. Now, look, as a type A engineer, I'm a huge fan of being effective and efficient. And so in order to inspire my children daily, I decided we should have a large painting of myself placed in the entryway of our house so that every time the children entered, they would see their distinguished father up on the wall. So I commissioned a famous artist to paint this picture of what I call me grabbing life by the horns.
That's pretty funny, dude.
All right, so although this is incredibly inspiring, this majestic mural does have deep meaning, which teaches an important lesson that I really want my kids to know, right? And that is, whatever you choose to do it fully, commit to it fully, play full out, right? Follow your passion and work really hard to be the best at it. And along the way, constantly be asking the Lord for guidance. But you also have to play just as hard. You have to keep the other important areas of your life in focus. You basically need to take the time to enjoy life, right? You have to embrace fun and laughter and just not take yourself too seriously. Life is meant to be lived fully. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today, is how can you live your life more fully? And I know a lot of you on this call are type A go-getters, and you've achieved great success in your life. But I bet there's still some room for improvement, right? I bet some of you have a few relationships you need to work on. I bet some of you could probably benefit from a few more healthier mind and body sessions. I bet you're probably not all very clear on where you're headed, or maybe you don't like where you're going, and you'd love to have a little more clarity on that. None of us know how many minutes we have left to live, right? There's an unknown number of precious minutes remaining. And my question to you is, are you using them well? Are you spending them on the things that matter? Well, if not, let's talk about it. So imagine you're walking down a busy sidewalk and you just see this incredible array of humans, right? And you're watching their faces and their demeanors, and you're literally sitting there wondering, like, what drives these people? Like, who are they? What's their focus? What makes them tick, right? What major projects are they working on? What are they doing today, tomorrow? Like, you're just so curious. And so you're so curious, you ask someone, you literally pull someone over and you literally ask them these kind of life questions. And to your absolute bewilderment, this person pulls out a single piece of paper and they unfold it. And so they sit there and they literally start pointing to, well, this is my purpose in life, and these are the missions that I'm on, right? These are my core values and quotes that I just love. I live by these quotes. They drive me daily, and they start to show you, like, these are my life priorities. This is where I literally spend the majority of, this is where I spend my time in my life, and these are the projects that come from here and where I partition and put the time into. And then they flip the paper over and they show you this weekly plan where it's literally, these are the things I'm doing, trying to accomplish this year, this month, and then this is what I'm doing this week. And these are habits that I'm tracking because they're so important to me, right? Could you imagine having this, like, your whole life figured out so clearly, and a tactical plan to, like, execute that? Imagine, like, holding that in your hand on a single piece of paper. This is so powerful. And this clarity is something everyone needs, yet so far I've seen no one seems to have.
That looks like a scene from The Matrix.
And yeah, if we all had this at the tip of our fingertips, right, we were intentionally reviewing it on a regular basis, like, the world would be an amazing, much better place. So let's get into this. Let's talk about what's in this thing. What is it? How it works. And I'll show you some examples, and we'll talk about how you could make your own. So if you want to live your best life ever, right, that's things like achieving these big goals, operating your highest potential, maximizing these talents, right? We all have some really cool innate talents that we're just so good at, and they're asymmetric. They give you these, like, asymmetric returns of effort, of value for the effort you put into them. Are you, like, leveraging those and, like, putting those into your life? And man, living your purpose, right? These are huge things. Who doesn't want to experience a fulfilled life? A fulfilled life is when you're literally out living your purpose, living your abilities and putting them to use, and hopefully help doing things that are beyond yourself. When you do these things, like, there's just no way you're going to not inspire other people around you. So to do this, to have this outcome, right, you really need clarity. If you have clarity, it's like more obvious to see how you get to these things. And so you really need a life roadmap. If you could pull together this information and succinctly be clear on it, you get enough clarity, which really helps you get to these outcomes, right? And so I've been really fortunate to meet some incredible people in my life. And there was this one gentleman that's a mentor of mine. And every year I'd go to his annual goals retreat, and he would say this quote, and it's just so true, and it's just really impacted me. But it's simply, when you have clarity of vision, strategy and tactics become self-evident, right? When you know with enough clarity what you want or what you want to be, it becomes obvious what to do to get there. You might not know all the steps, but you now have some, immense clarity. And so again, if the goal or the outcome, these are the things that I want to get to and achieve, maybe I'm having a little bit of it, but I want to have all these things in a full way. Well, you've got to get those life details together and kind of build this roadmap, this, like, life roadmap. Well, what's the thing that's going to help us navigate as we've got this map? How do we navigate while we're in the forest, right? Going around trees and boulders and crossing vast expanses. We need something to kind of guide us on that journey. And so literally think of, like, a compass, like this tool. You'll take this information, you're going to use this tool to navigate so that over time you're getting these outcomes. And this is what I call the one pager, or a life compass. And it's literally a single piece of paper. There's a front side and a back side, and it has this information on it. And so what is this purpose, right? It gives you clarity. Like, that is literally the one-liner word that I think sums us all up. It gives you this clarity so that you know who the best version of yourself is. And it really helps you understand what are the things that are most important to me, and what should I be working on, and like, at what percentages, right? And so it just gives you all this clarity so that every day, or on a very recurring basis, you're making decisions that help you navigate that course and stay as much on track as you can. You get to define that track, that course, but you kind of need this tool to help you, right? And so it guides you on these three key things: who to be, what to do, and how to do it. And we'll go over that in a second, but that's the front side, and there's kind of this back side. All right, so let's get into the chunks here. So the who to be. What ways of thinking and acting do you need to be doing on a regular basis? Your behavior, like who you are, like how you show up in the world, it's made up of these two things: how you think, like what's going in your mind, and how you process things, and these decisions you make, and then physically, or what you say or do, right? It's those two things which ultimately create your results in life, whether you like it or not. So if you don't like that, if you don't like results, you got to go change your thinking and acting. We all use computers. When you punch away in the keyboard and you have internet connected, there's software running in the background, right? There's an operating system. You as a human have an operating system. And if you don't like the way that you're responding to life, like life's going to happen to you, whether you like it or not, right? How you respond, how you show up, who you are in this life. If you don't like that, go rewrite the code. Like you can do that, right? And so that's what the point of this page is like define who you want to be. Who is the perfect version of you? So we get clear on what is my purpose, the missions I'm on, my core values. I love quotes of wisdom. Maybe you don't. But again, these are like key pieces of information that really, really help you get clear. This next piece, what to do, right? This is like the 30,000-foot view, like, man, the big chunks, like what should I be working on if my goal is to have a fulfilled life, really kind of living my purpose and doing these things that matter to me. So again, like, are you working on the right things? Your time, energy, we all wake up and every day we're going to do something, right? When we physically get involved and start doing things, where does that time and energy go? You can sit on the couch and hang out, or you can be extremely laser focused and working on things. And so getting really clear what these things are, and it includes stuff like your life priorities. This thing that I call check 6. And think of it this way. Imagine you go to your doctor and he tells you, hey, listen, you have 6 months to live. You're going to have the exact same health you have today, and you're going to have the same wealth. The amount of money you make, the money you have, like nothing's going to change. And so if you need to keep going to work, you're going to have to keep going to work, right? You can't live for 6 months. You don't have enough money to probably live for 6 months. You got to kind of keep going. So the idea is like, what time frame with this crazy outcome, what time frame do I have? What am I going to start doing differently? If you've got 18 months to live, you're going to be like, dang, I better get on top of stuff, right? But you probably won't be that urgent. And if you have 1 day to live, you're going to be crazy extreme, right? That's not helpful. 6 months for me, at least, is the time frame where I really start to realize, man, I've got to work on that. I've got to change things so that I can start making meaningful progress on this outcome or this thing that's that important to me. So this kind of an exercise helps figure that out for you, right? Similar thing, like what regrets are building up inside of you. All of us on this call have things that we know or wish we were doing more of, right? Think about that. What stuff is bothering you that you're not working on doing, being, right? Write those things down. What are your big goals? Some of us have like very explicit goals, specific, marked, right? Measurable, all that stuff. Some of us have big, crazy goals that maybe don't have a timeline, but we really want it to achieve it. Write it all down. Get it all really clear. Where are your major projects? I run a couple different companies. I've got my family. I'm the CEO of my family, right? I've got these major chunks of my life where I spend my time. What are those? Get really clear on that stuff. And so then on the back side, this is the tactical weekly planner. And listen, a lot of you have very explicit systems that you've been using and perfecting, and I'm not at all proposing you get rid of those or change that stuff. I'll show you what I'm doing. Maybe there's some stuff that might help you improve or add on to your system, but again, this is like the how-to part, right? And so again, like, what do you need to be doing? I love to start with more like the 12-month look, and then what needs to happen this month, this week, and then the daily, right? But just getting really clear on those things. What's a critical outcome? Like, if you could boil it all down, what's this thing that has to happen this week? Just getting clear on that stuff is amazing at really making sure you're getting the most out of your time. This one's huge. Like, what habits are you tracking? Whether you like it or not, your habits define you, right? If you don't define them, they will define you. You could tell me, I could take almost any person, show me the amount of food, what you ate, all the details of what you ate for an entire week, show me all your exercise, and I could probably describe what you're like, how you think, the mental energy and clarity you have, right? If you don't like the way you're feeling and the way you're looking or being, come back to those habits, figure that stuff out first, change those habits, and you will absolutely affect the outcome, right? So define the outcomes you want, figure out what habits you need, and then go do those things. Well, that's easily said, and I think we've all done some amounts of that, right? When you start measuring those habits, you're tracking them and measuring them, you're going to manage the outcomes far better, right? So
that which gets measured gets done.
Exactly. Yep, Peter Drucker. All right. So here's a summary. You can take a screenshot of this. You'll get access to this information, but this is kind of like the summary of the one pager, right? So the purpose, these 3 big chunks of what's on this thing. All right, so let's look at some examples. I'm going to show you my personal one-pager, open kimono. I'm not holding anything back. You're seeing the real deal. And then also with my family, I made what I call the Berry Family Way, and I'll go over that in detail. Please understand these are my examples. This is what works for me. You got to do you. But I'm going to give you all this. You can use my example, copy, paste, whatever helps you get this stuff figured out for yourself, by all means. And please understand, I did not create any of this in one day. I think it's a bit intimidating to look and go, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, how am I ever going to do this, right? This is something I've been working on for literally years and perfecting the wording and my type A, get this all in these boxes, right? So, all right.
By the way, it is very tough to, right? So sometimes it can be hard to read, particularly if you require glasses. So get your glasses out. But that's kind of the beauty of this, right? And the simplicity of it is that it is on one page, but there's a lot of stuff you got to get in there. I love Mowbray's comment. The ability to simplify means to eliminate the unnecessary so that the necessary may speak. And that's what you're doing on this one page. Your necessary is speaking.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Part of the magic is it's only a single piece of paper. Now understand, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. I'll keep it brief for today, but there is a much bigger document that I have written, and I'm still writing it, where it expands on all of this stuff. And there's a lot more than this one page, right? So I've been writing that over time, which just, again, helps me get clear myself on what's important. I then go take the best of that stuff and synchronize it into this one page. And the one page is something I physically print out every week. Like, I literally use this thing, and it's really helpful. But yes, there's only so much white space there. And that is part of the magic, is to kind of get really clear on that. All right, so a couple examples. We're going to look at the front half of the one pager, the who to be and the what to do. So here it is. Again, a lot on there, but if you could imagine a vertical line there on the left half is that who to be part. So there's my purpose, the missions I'm on, my core values. I love quotes, so I've got a lot of quotes in there, but these quotes are super meaningful to me. When I read them, they like affect me in the moment. They literally help change my action or rewire my attitude for the day, right? Do whatever works for you, but the point is to kind of get information on here that you create and are doing the actions you need, which is what creates the results, which is how you get to this kind of fulfilled life, right? And again, the fulfilled life, this thing, it's not an end state. It's something you want to be experiencing and enjoying throughout time, right? And so that's what's here on this who to be side. On the right side, the what to do, again, think of it like a much higher level. This is not a task list. This is not a real detailed to-do list. It's meant to be the big chunks, because what's really magical is you're running around in the day and all of a sudden you're like, dang, what do I need to be doing again, right? And you just like stare at this thing and it just gives you this incredible like glance. You're like hovering above yourself, looking down at all these things, and you're like, yes, that's really important. I gotta get, right? That's the idea. So for me, the what to do part, the life priorities, huge, right? I talked about the check 6, like what things should I be doing if I only had 6 months to live?
I love that too, about the 6 months to live, because there's lots of people that talk about kind of doing your, your like looking back on your life and writing your obituary, or writing your story from looking back from 85 on back, and what you would need to accomplish in order to be able to say that you had a life well lived, or even doing that 3 years out. But a lot of people can have difficulty, right, being like, well, man, I can accomplish an enormous amount in 3 years, let alone in if it's 40 or 50 years out. I think the 6 months really dials it in on, okay, what am I going to get real on? What are the really, really, really important things that I got to get done? And I think that this is particularly the case for anybody that's got a family, right? So Taylor actually asked, or T. Delaney says, what's the best first step towards doing something like this for my family? And I think that he's going to get into that, but this is really important for anybody that's got, kids, right? If you got kids, you really need to be paying attention to this. It's particularly that, that 6 month aspect, because there's a lot of things that I noticed this is on yours, Scott, is that you got a lot of things associated with making sure that your estate's dialed in, making sure that you got all that stuff. This is the reason why I wanted to make sure that we did this right before the end of the year / beginning of the year, because these are the things that you should be focused on at that time. Sorry, awesome. I interrupted you, man. I hope I didn't mess with your flow.
group conversation. So we kind of went through all this, right? But again, you'll get access to this. You can kind of sit there and absorb it, think about it for yourself, and ultimately make this for yourself. But over here on the right, the bottom piece, I'll back up here. In that bottom right, these are like my major projects. I call them projects, call them whatever you want, but it's literally like if I took, I sleep for about 8 hours, I'm awake for about 16 hours. So in those 16 hours, where do I literally spend my time? Like, just think about where are you chunking that out? And the goal isn't to track all this perfectly, but it's to think about, this is a really important area of my life. I don't feel like I'm spending enough time there. Why not? Or what can I do about that, right? And so the idea is kind of like map this out high level, but it gives you this clarity of like, well, this is all the stuff. Man, I kind of have too much stuff on here. It's not realistic to be doing all these things. And I've had to physically like cut back on time. I was unrealistically expecting I could spend time on all these things. And when I really sat down and did the math, I'm like, this isn't realistic. And I've had to like cut back things and come to terms with my own self on, right? Like, you're gonna have to do less of this. You're gonna have to find a way to take these things off your plate. That is the whole point of this exercise, right? To have real conversations with yourself so that you really are spending the time and at least doing the right things.
Because actions lead to results, which leads to fulfillment. And so on this, and I will say this, Scott, right? Like, I think of myself as a really high functioning person that's got a lot on their plate. And my wife regularly says that. But man, when I looked at yours, I was like, holy crap, those are all of his major projects. Wow. I was like, that's a lot. And I just want to put this out there. So when I went through and I took yours and I made it my own, it's great doing this exercise. And I think that this is the key that you're trying to communicate to everybody, is that it really focuses you and it really makes you focus on, dial in on what it is that are the most important things. What are those projects that you really need to accomplish, both in the next 6 months relative to your family and if you were going to die, but then also to move the ball on your big, hairy, audacious goals. I love that, right? So you got that big life goals, your dreams. Write your dreams down, right? Because writing has power. It's your brain, and then visualize them, right? Visualize yourself doing those things that you write down. Your brain doesn't actually have the ability to be able to discern between what it's done in the past and what you visualized in the future. And then that starts to channel it towards actually making it happen. And Scott's giving you a roadmap for how to actually, so you've heard all of these things before, right? Like, I've heard all these things before, but this is the first time where I've seen it reduced to a one-page deal and a process for how you actually do it. That's what I was really excited about. And so literally you just take this thing, right? And so the thing that you'll have access to is Scott's one-pager, right? And his process that has all of these components to it, right? Which he's walking you through right now. And you can do it and you can make it into your own, and you can beef it up or you can dial it back according to how you see fit.
You could even go with 11 by 17 inch piece of paper.
And then you can have a really big one pager, right? So yours is set up to print on 8.5 by 11, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the goal is just crazy simple. It's a Google slide. I'll talk a bit more about the how-to, but yeah, the goal is to be extremely simple. I have tried so many cool electronic widgets and software programs and all this stuff, and read David Allen's book on getting things done, and just, man, like crazy amount of stuff. And I've just constantly found that I bury all these things and these digital notes and all this stuff, and all of a sudden I'm like not getting stuff done. I'm overwhelmed, and I'm back to just my Post-it notes on my desk. There's nothing wrong with that, but there is just something crazy about having just enough information on a piece of paper I can hold out, print on any printer, like literally in the world. Dang, like, try it. All right, let's keep going here. So on the back side of the one pager is this weekly planner. Again, this may not be for you, but this is what I do. So it's a very simple document. It prints out Monday through Friday in the top, Saturday, Sunday, and then the weekly, monthly, 12 months, right? As soon as I print this thing out, basically every Monday morning, I write in there. Here, I'll walk through this here. But basically, it's obvious, right? The daily pieces. I really start with the 12-month outcomes. And this I actually digitally write in there, so I'm not writing these out every week. They don't change much. But I write these specific goals in there. And then it's like, what things need to get done this month? Like this month, I've got maybe 3 weeks left of the month. What really needs to get done to move forward? And ideally, a lot of those tie to the right. They go over to the right and tie into those big goals. Some stuff you just like, dude, I got to get this done. It's not tied in these goals. I got to turn in my taxes or whatever. And then you think about it on a weekly perspective, which is getting very real, right? Very granular. And then you kind of fill out the monthly or the daily stuff. So anyway, this is just one way. This is a really key piece of this that actually makes a big difference. I talked about how critical habits are. And so again, what you measure, you manage. It is so true. Anyway, so along the top here, I've got these little boxes. And so in any one of those days, you can kind of see I've got a habit 1, habit 2, habit 3, or 4. Again, a habit is just something you're kind of doing on a recurring basis. Ideally, it's something that you do remotely. Like I wake up and I brush my teeth. I don't really think about it. It just kind of happens, right? That's the goal, is to make it more like that. So I'll go through and explain that. But the point is, I've just got this little box, and it's meant to be crazy simple. Either a binary, did I do it or not? Check, no check, right? And so here's an example of a week for me, right? And I've kind of gone through and filled it out. And so, oh yeah, there's my quote. Let's look at this Thursday habits, right? So I know it's small, but the point is this. I've got a couple things in there. What are they, right? So every day I wake up, the first thing I do is I sit down and pray. Just give God the first couple minutes of the day and think about it. I don't specify what I'm doing. It's just like, this is an important function. Like I do this, right? And so I just track it. Did I do it or not do it? I try to plan every morning, and it's just literally either filling this document out or looking at it or updating it. But it's, again, meant to be simple and quick. But these are like 2 critical things I've got to do every morning. Ideally, the first thing I do, right? It really sets the day off. I try to work out every day, and 60 minutes is my goal, right? But just physically tracking it. Did I do it or not do it? And so I just write down how many minutes I did do. Read 10 pages a day. I've got this goal to grow my mind. Every single day, I'm just plugging away on this very specific and measurable thing, right? Just 10 pages. And then this is another example. BFH stands for Bury Family Handbook. But this is a project that is really, really important to me. And we could go back and I could show you in my major projects where it is in this big effort of mine. But this is like this thing right now that I am really, really trying to get done. And when you want to get something done, break it down into the things you can control. Well, at the end of the day, I can control my time I spend on something, and maybe I control something that's easy to measure, like how many pages did I read, or in this example, like how many minutes did I spend writing and working on this book for my family. And so again, just make it crazy simple, try and remove the friction. But because I have to sit here and fill out this box every day morning or at the end of the week, like I'm measuring it, and I create way more action than if it was some other way. So that's what the habit part is on this weekly thing. All right, let's jump into an example of the family one-pager. In my family, right, I've got my 7 children, and as a father, I think a lot of you that have kids can relate to this, but you are the leader of your house, or you and your wife, your spouse are the leaders of your house, right? And ultimately, the kids are like your employees, right? And as a leader, like the goal is to kind of set the culture. Like, how do we operate here in this family? Like, what is expected of you as a member of this team, right? You've got to figure that out. Like, you've got to get clear on that. And the more clear you can be, the less ambiguous it is. And then, right, our kids learn from who we are and literally by just what we do, how we act, what we do. You can say whatever you want. They will do and follow what you do, right? And so the point is, I need to get more clear on that, because I was seeing things my kids are doing, and I'm like, I don't like this outcome. I don't like what you're doing here. And I tell them. Anyway, so the point was to get kind of clear on that and make it more clear for everybody, and being tangible and literally putting it on the wall, right? So in this page here, we talk about who to be, what to do. In my family one pager, it's just the who to be part, right? It's just that part. I'm not trying to get any more detail on that. There's no weekly planner. It's just this piece of it. And so it looks like this. It's very simple. Our very family purpose, like, why does our family exist, right? What are our family values? Same thing that I was doing for myself, just in the context of the family. And ideally, you go sit down with your family and we all talk about this together and we create this content. Maybe you write most of it, but then go share it with the family and get thoughts and feedback, and you just keep iterating this over time. But the idea is to get buy-in, right? But values, and then
so that's the question: is how do you get buy-in?
Well,
it's like we've had a couple of comments, right, about how do you buy family and like, you got any best practices? Mowbray, I'd love to get your comments in the chat too about some recommendations slash things that you think would be good for teenagers.
Yeah. Well, how do you get buy-in? Again, as a leader, and I'm not trying to make this sound like it's some corporate office, right? But you are the leader. It is an expectation. You need to kind of set the pace and like how things work here. But in the context of this document, I think it's, as a parent, your job is to literally figure this stuff out. And most people just don't have this stuff written down. This is what I think is important, is to write it down. It's incredibly. There's
power in writing it down. You're exactly right.
So there's this great synergy that happens with your partner to kind of sit there and through this. That's incredibly valuable. Sharing with your kids. So what I did is, I've been writing this for a long time. So I work on this, finally get it printed because we were having a big family event. I'm like, dang it, I need this on the wall. So I kind of like push it out. And then we've been having conversations about it. So the point is, you really do want to have buy-in. Are your kids going to love every detail and say, yes, sir, I'll do all that? Of course not, right? But man, the more you get this stuff out there, the more you talk about it. Let me give you a real tangible example of like how this works. We're having a day, right? It's the evening. Kids are running around, this and that's happening. And all of a sudden, one of my children does something. I'm like, Joe, like I stop and I pull him aside, like, we don't do that. This is not how we operate, right? We don't act this way. And I literally walk him over. I'm like, see right here? And I point to it. I'm like, see this line? Like, this is how we operate in this family. To be able to do that, man, that's like really powerful. Does it mean he's going to be the perfect kid forever? No. But the point is, the more you kind of put time in this stuff, the more they see that's important. It's more clear on what the expectations are to be in this family. It's not going to guarantee results, but I guarantee you it will give you better results over time. And then the last piece of this, down here at the bottom, it's this little statement, right? I'll read it to you. It says, as a member of this elite team, I fully commit to and honor to live the Berry family way at all times. I hold myself accountable to think and act in these ways. I will also hold my teammates accountable, leading by example and using words only when necessary. If my behavior does not align, I will correct my actions and do whatever it takes to make things right. This is the Berry family way. And then they all sign it, right? And so here's my daughter, Ava. And it's right here on the wall, right in like our dining room area. So when we're having dinner, it's right there on the wall, right? You can't quite see it, but they all signed it. And so again, like one little thing that just kind of says like, man, I kind of committed to this. I wrote my name on this thing. And some of the young kids, they don't even understand this, right? I get that. But I think everybody sees the bigger picture that having
How
this.
How old is she?
Ava is 8.
Okay. And she's down. She's like, all right, yeah, I signed it up. Count me in.
And this is 11 by 14. This is legal paper.
There we go.
Anyway, so this is the what I call the Berry family way. And again, it's just kind of got the upper left piece, the who to be part, right? Organized for just my family. All right, a couple more slides. So how to make your own. What is the best way? There's a slow way, there's a fast way, there's many ways in between. All of them are correct. Do whatever works for you, right? This is about you. This isn't about making something that looks cool for your friends or your boss. Like, just make it however it needs to be. If it's scribbled on a piece of paper and that's all you need, great, right? The goal is to think, create some stuff, review it, do it, but ultimately change action. Like, create action for yourself so you get results, the results you want, right? That's the point of this. The wrong way is to kind of do nothing, continue living without intention. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're happy with getting whatever results you get, right? Another great quote, right? If you don't know where you are going, any road will get you there. From Alice in Wonderland. So, all right. So let's talk through these ways real quick. So the full send, this is like the most thorough way, right? You'd sit down, you'd go through this content collection process, which I can kind of give you a template. And you kind of go through and you highlight the best emotional stuff. You write down, what are my core values? You write down these quotes and wisdom and anything else that you want to put in there. What are the things that really pull on your heartstrings? You can feel like emotion come out, right? That's the really good stuff. Write this all out, just barf it all on the page. And then the idea is you kind of go back and kind of synthesize it. Maybe you coalesce things, but ultimately it's find that really impactful stuff, the emotional stuff. And that's the content you pull over into the one pager and kind of get it into that succinct document. So again, the content collection, it's just a document where you're going to go through and kind of fill out these categories, like think about that stuff and just write things down. Maybe you go on the internet, use AI to find stuff for those categories. Oh, I like that. I like that. get all in there, synthesize it into the one pager. That's kind of like the slow but really thorough way.
So what I did as well, so I'm going to go back to that. Right? So I actually took all of my like journal entry, that kind of stuff. I have a custom GPT, like, so I pay for GPT for chat, and I created a new project. I drug all of my journal entries into it. And I said, and I use that in order to say, okay, I use it for a number of different things, but specifically to say, okay, based upon this stuff, what do you think are some core values that are really, jump out to us? There's also this thing called Corenology, Corenology, which is a software tool that you can pay for. And I had a financial advisor that actually, hooked us up with it. So I took that and I fed that into the GPT as well. And then I took our family mottos. So our name is Tyson. My oldest son, his name's Davidson, and that's after the Davidson clan from Scotland. Fisher was my middle one, and Mowbray's my youngest one. And I took all of those family mottos and dumped it in there as well. And I specifically have each one of those family mottos, and then it came up with a specific one for us, which is kind of cool, right? And so that's a great place to start. Just pull that off the internet or have chat pull it out of the internets. And that, it's a great place to kind of start with your content.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And I'll get to that in just a second here. The quick and dirty way, right? Just go straight to making the template. So just go, again, this is a Google slide. If you hate Google, don't have an account, use whatever you want. But the point is just go in there and just start filling it out. Maybe you just got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That's fine, right? Just go get something and iterate over time. And then kind of like Ashley was just saying, right? I think the real goal here is just to have AI make it for me. I spit out some stuff. I drop in a document over here. I ask the AI, what are some of the top, core values or quotes or whatever, right? And this thing just kind of collates all together, maybe you review it, and then boom, it makes this document that you can just print. That's the goal. So that's something I want to work on personally and provide that. For now, we're stuck with
God bless you if you could figure that out. So it'll generate all of this stuff. I still have yet to figure out how to actually make it format into something that doesn't look like freaking AI.
It's just software, all doable. But yeah. So again, I think the goal here is just to kind of do something. It could just be a Word document. It doesn't need to be printed out on a single piece, right? Again, whatever works for you. All right. So here's the takeaway. Life is short. We do not know how much time we have left, right? My dad passed away at a pretty young age, actually the age I'm at right now, right? And it's just heart-wrenching because there was so much I want to talk to him about, that I want to ask him questions about today. And he's not here to answer those questions, and he did not leave behind a one-pager or anything in depth. And so that's one of my goals, is to kind of think through all this stuff for myself and write it all down so that it's helpful for me. But certainly I want to leave something behind for my kids, so that if I disappear a little early, it's there for them, and I can kind of continue talking and working through them, mentoring them from such a document. If you're not living your best life, right, if there's things you want to improve or change, the one pager, I think, or something like it, can really help provide clarity, which is the goal. And so I'm going to live to 150. I'm doing it. And you got to live like you're going to die tomorrow, right? Like, you really got to have a sense of urgency. I don't think that means you got to be running with your hair on fire, and you're like just this crazy hard person to be around. But you also are living with intention, and you really think about each day. It's a precious gift, and just really trying to get the most out of it, right? And one last quote I love: "A person is not old until regrets take the place of their dreams." What a terrible place to be, right? You're so old that you're just like, I'm not going to get this done. Now I have this regret, this filthy regret that I'm going to die with inside of me. Like, that's terrible. Like, I don't want to be that person, right? So my goal is to think through this stuff. Like, I don't want to die with any real regrets. Well, what are you going to do about it?
Is don't be that guy. Don't let that happen to you, right?
Yeah. I think that's the point,
so it's funny is that, like, one of my favorite quotes, and when I regularly talk about this in the context of opportunity zones, so people ask me all the time, when was the best time to set up an opportunity zone fund? Well, back in 2018. It's kind of like, when was the best time to have planted a tree? 30 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. When was the best time to have done this for yourself? Back when you were 18, right? Like I'm trying to get my ne'er-do-well kids to do myself, right? I'm trying to get them as teenagers to understand the value of this, because it can make a massive difference if you get intentional and you start doing things like this. You start really dialing in on what's important to you, and you actually make it right to where you condense that to writing. And so Jake says that feels like he owes you $50K for this. Actually, this is invaluable, right? Like, I don't know that you could put a number on this, which is why Scott's giving it away for free. We got David who asked, do you carry your one pager with you daily, leave it on your desk, or have best practices for when and how to review?
Well, first to Jake, I'll send you my Venmo account. I take crypto as well. I take crypto, most forms. Yeah, for the one pager, it's a very annoying document because it's like this physical piece of paper. So it's beautiful, and then I can hold it, and there's just something magical about this simple piece of paper. Like I can print this out in like any hotel printer in the world, right? Like that's kind of cool. There's just something about it. It's super annoying because there's times I'm like, I really need this. So I take it with me, and then it's in my pocket, then I forget it, and then it gets wet, and I'm like, damn, right? So that's unfortunate. The ultimate solution, which again, these are tools that I plan to be working on here this next year, is like some software version where it is all kept in this like beautiful software thing, highly AI driven, really easy and quick to use, but I can still print it out and somehow get the best of both worlds. I'm not sure what that form looks like, but for now, I do print it out. I do take it with me at times. Sometimes I'll just take a picture of it so that I leave it at my desk, but then I can reference it later that day, right? It's some mix.
Yeah, so I use I want to kind of share on this, and I want to kind of see if there's anybody else that has best practices or questions like that. That's a great question, David. And once again, thanks for everybody for participating in the chat. Thanks for being here today. I think that this is a great place for us to talk about and to really be thinking about best practices, that kind of drill. I'm actually going to run the banner, and we'll show that right where you can go. Well, that's not the right one. There was here we go. We got this one right here. We're going for that one. If you want to get more information, you can go to ozpros.com/live, and you can put your information there. Not necessarily for OZ needs. If you got anything that you would want from us, but specifically go to Scott and check his stuff out. I use a book like this because I think there's something powerful in writing things down. Now, the problem with this is that I got to rewrite everything like on a weekly basis relative to my stuff. So I really like this concept of what you're doing and the reason why I'm shifting out and away from this. But I just think that there's power in the written word, right? And of actually writing stuff down and then reviewing that in writing on, I actually think that it's on a daily basis. And then if you've got it on one page like this, right? So you've got this on one side, and then you've got your things that you're writing down on the other side. This is actually just my notes, but you're literally kind of keeping notes real time. Now, one of the things that I like about this book, and I'm trying to figure out how I can do this, is that I actually like having like a like stuff that I write down relative to like just general things that I need to be keeping track of. And I'm trying to figure out how I can get more space. Maybe I just got to write smaller and more succinctly on that one page that I can then carry over just as like notes and reminders to keep, to keep track of. So we've kind of done a hybrid. Like I'm a big fan of Jordan Rayner's Redeeming Your Time. I think it's a great book. He talks about a commitment tracking system. And so I've actually got inside of that commitment tracking system right here. So actually, I'm going to pull this back up right on ways that you can contact Scott. But in that commitment tracking system, we've got that now dialed in Slack as a list with scheduled things to where we can move it over into the schedule. We can schedule them as tasks, that kind of thing. So what I do at the end of the week is I go through all of the notes that I've written down over the course of the week on my paper. I pull that into the commitment tracking system, and then we go through and we prioritize what of those things do I need to do this week in order to move the big balls forward, right? In order to move the rocks for my life, my walk with God, all of the things that are inside of my balance wheel, all that kind of stuff to move those forward. What needs attention at that moment in time? And so, I think that there's, great practical trips on this. Man, Crystal is talking about sharing this with her entire family. So thanks again, Scott. We really appreciate everybody. Oh, here's our call to action at the OZ Pros. If you want to go and learn more from us, this is all in the comments and in the chat as well. But Scott, any final thoughts? Anything that we didn't cover that we should have?
There's a lot to
we just kind of scratched the surface, right?
Totally.
I mean, and kind of to that end, right? So like I've mentioned other things that I've got, right? Other kind of inputs and all of that that are things that I do. So I pull C12. So I've got my balance wheel, right? You've got your things that are on the like the what to do, like your life priorities. I pulled those straight from my balance wheel in C12 because I know that I've got to give an account for those monthly. That's actually one of the things we talked about as well is, inside of that account, inside of the app is coming up with accountability functions. I'd love to start doing this inside of our community, which, by the way, big shout outs from the community, both from Vern, and then also from Joe. Joe, appreciate you being in a lot more reasonable time than our standard Tuesday mornings. But once again, thank you for being here. I love our Tuesdays. I love that it generated conversations like this, Scott. And once again, thank you for putting that together. Thank you for sharing it with us. It's already making an impact in my life. And I think that it's going to have a downstream impact in my wife and my family's, my kids' lives, because I am going to be very intentional. And I don't know if they're still listening on here or not. That was one of the expectations, is that they were going to participate in this, namely so that I didn't have to regurgitate to them. I've already kind of given them the overview of it, but I was like, man, you got to hear this from the guy who invented it, because you're going to be doing this. This is part of the job expectation of being a part of, the Tyson Family Inc. So that's one of the things that I'm implementing this year, is actually having a family services organization where we use this to pay the kids, right? To run payroll through, that pays for college, pays for other stuff, that does that kind of thing. And that also then is there, right, for tuition. And I'm looking at the tax plays relative to how we can make this as tax favorable as well. But as part of that tax favorableness, there's certain things that they need to do in order to get the benefits of that stuff. Having one of these is going to be one of those obligations. And nice. Then meeting on a weekly basis to go over that, right? That's going to be an expectation. And, life moves way too fast, right? It's Ferris Bueller. If you don't slow down once in a while to take a look around, it's going to pass you by. Same thing is true about your kids. I'm coming to the end of my 18 years, but I still have an opportunity inside of this family services organization to still positively impact their lives. And so I'm trying to do that to make sure that I'm, having the most positive effect that I can. Kudos to you, Scott, because you're doing this when they're little. And so I'm really stoked to see the massive impact that this is going to have on them. But, can't wait to see what you develop and how you put, because, man, you're allocating a significant amount of your time. And I think I saw that it was like 50% that you're allocating to this. And, man, I know what results you accomplish when you put your mind to something. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this unfolds.
Yeah, feeling really called to kind of put more time into this. So working on it. Hey, I just want to say thank you to you. You have a focus, the OZ Pros, right? There's a very specific focus for why we're there and why we pay for that service you provide. But this stuff is awesome, right? It's a side gig that has massive impact, very asymmetric. So thank you for pulling this together, pulling content from your huge network to kind of help us work on our lives. Like that's what really matters. Is like we're humans. We got all these things going on. We come to you for very specific content and tactical things to help us with our taxes and generating wealth for our family. But making this available too, like an a la carte, kind of choose what you want, need. Man, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I look forward to getting exposed to more and more of the content and people that you're going to bring into this network. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this into rolling out our kind of OzWorks Group 2.0 with the rebrand, and specifically having places where things like this happen inside of our community. If you're interested in the community, go to ozpros.com, drop us a line, or you can navigate through to the Ascent page and you can sign up. And we meet every Tuesday, and then we do cool stuff like this, right? Where this is, available out to the general public. If you're watching this live, or if you're watching it on a replay, once again, man, we got lots of folks from the community who tuned in today. So kudos to you, Scott, and appreciate all you guys being here, supporting Scott. And we're looking forward to doing more stuff like this, right? Of really chasing true wealth, right? So, I help people save a crap ton of money in taxes. That's my superpower. But I think my real superpower is helping them do so that way they can then put that money to work for purpose and for something that's going to be meaningful. And so I'm really excited about, being able to do that and kind of rolling things out that are going to help people to have tools just like this as we kind of go forward. We're coming up towards the top of the hour. I'm going to wrap us up here, Scott. Once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for making it available to everybody. And if you are interested, reach out to Scott at inspire.com. It's kind of cool how what the 3 stands for there, and the kind of massive impact that he wants to have. And if you're interested in all things tax savings or opportunity zones, check us out at ozpros.com. And I would tell you to give us a like or subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, please do that. But otherwise, we will see you guys on Tuesday morning. And once again, thanks for being here. Scott, thanks for all that you do. And we'll see you guys next year, I think. But
Yeah.
and because we're on Christmas Eve, right? I got my Christmas tree right here. Merry Christmas to you, Scott, and to everyone else.
Merry Christmas. See ya.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.